We are live.
Okay, thank you. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, my honorable panelists and very dear audience. This is part of our series of webinars that we organize under the auspices of Global and Regional Studies Center at the IoBM. And we try to pick up issues which are vital and important policy issues for Pakistan. And today we have picked up very, very vital, in fact, some kind of an existential issue of water security for Pakistan. And our theme of the webinar is water security challenges and the way forward for Pakistan. Pakistan, being a semi-arid region and primarily an agriculture economy, is facing declining water availability and quality. Growing water pollution and overall environmental insecurity, this situation, coupled with institutional, operational, and governance failures, is fostering domestic discord and, of course, reducing and retarding our development. The water conflict has both historical roots and emerging dynamics. Water scarcity, floods, droughts, and domestic mismanagement can embitter inter-ethnic relations and political tensions, which can in turn lead to violence within and without. In fact, we all are very much aware as to how India has been threatening under the extremist BJP to use water as a weapon. Understanding water availability, allocation mechanisms, and demand is critical to understanding national management challenges and security threats. In the context, rapid urbanization, intersectoral competition, and a growing industrial infrastructure will increase the need both for water and for development of new water infrastructure. Climate change forecasts may seem like an antidote to water scarcity as well as new threats emerging out of the unpredictability of the climate, but may not have the same implications for water security. That is human and socio-economic security. Varying perceptions of water security among stakeholders and decision makers are preventing viable solutions for effective water resource management. The current policy approach oriented in supply side intervention, I think that is the biggest challenge we'll be discussing in a while. Interventions and the overall ethos favors engineering mega projects, a bias reflected in policy and in donor appeals as well. This approach only wields the problem of water use efficiencies. Water stress should not be the tipping point, but rather a means to promote social harmony, environmental sustainability, and national unity. Effective management can only come from domestic reforms, and dependence on foreign aid will not render the lasting solutions. Uh, with this background, the theme that I have already mentioned is that the water security challenges and the way forward for Pakistan. And we have a panel of eminent scholars and experts on water. They are constitutional and legal minds. They are professionals. We have Mr. Shahab Usto, who is an advocate high court, a former civil servant, and really as well as an activist who has really been carrying the flag of water sustainability and water security for Pakistan. And also his focus has been sustain clean water, and he has put in a lot of efforts and he has a lot of expertise on this very question. And then we have Dr. Imran Ahmed Khan, who is again a water expert, and we'll also be learning from him what are the approaches, what are the challenges, and what approaches we take to meet those challenges. We have a third panelist, Mr. Khalid, Mr. Khalid Haider Memon, who is the former Secretary of Sindh government, but he will be joining us in a while because of technical issues. I am Ambassador Ghulam Rasool Baluch, and I'll be moderating this webinar. With this small introduction, sir, if we look at the water security issue, I think it has probably three major dimensions. Uh, that is availability, demand, and allocation. So, could we have your perspective covering these very important dimensions or any other dimension that you wish to add in your opening remarks? May I request Mr. Shahab Usto to start and take the lead and make his opening statement, and then we can proceed with the questions. Mr.
Uh,
Shahab,
Thank you
over to
very
you.
much, Ambassador Baluch. I'm very grateful that you have convened this forum and where we are going to discuss one of the most important issues confronting our not only the state but I think the entire region, including India and other South Asian countries. Because as you know, water is an international issue. We receive water from across the borders, from to Kabul River and the rivers coming from India. And we have had an agreement, a kind of treaty between India and Pakistan, brokered by the World Bank. And as it is, because of the changing international and regional scenario and ideological, the consequential ideological ramifications, I think the water issue is also going to be a kind of weapon to be used regionally, especially between India and Pakistan. And India is also is already working on it, and India is fast building dams and different kinds of other, so-called storage water storage facilities. But I see that this problem is going to further increase and get even worse if the situation on the political front is also getting a little tough, and especially if the demographic shift is taking place and population growth and urbanization is increasing, and with no proper institutional or regional level mechanisms being put in place to manage water, which is scarce and getting all the more scarce. So I think this problem is going to be internationally important. Now coming to the our own internal situation, I would say that Pakistan is a federation, as you know, and we are a federal republic, and like other uh, resources, the scarce resources and legislative and administrative and financial distributional mechanisms provided in the Constitution, we also have a kind of uh, constitutional mechanism under the umbrella of CCI to resolve the water-related problems between the federation and the provinces and among the provinces. And we also have a kind of accord, so-called 1991 accord, by which there is the distribution of quantum-wise distribution of water between especially Punjab and Sindh. But as you know, over the years, the even that uh, accord has not been implemented in letter and spirit. And as a result of that, we are finding, especially Kotri downstream areas, being perennially, in acute shortage of water. So much so they don't even have drinking water. And as a result of that, the Indus Delta is now parching up, drying up, and the sea is making incursions into the land. Every year, if you see this Badin coastal belt is receiving a huge sea incursions, and as a result of that, we are losing prime, agricultural land, and the ecological imbalances are increasing by the day. Yet we don't see any institutional or state level intervention to solve this problem on a permanent basis. As a result, I see that the southern part of the province of Sindh is going to face a huge challenge in terms of not only shortage of water, but uh, uh, disastrous, I would say, consequences for the marine life, the marine ecology, and especially the land mass, because the sea water is now becoming a constant threat. So I think it's time we gave the proper focus and prioritize this very vital and much neglected, area of our collective life, which is water. Water is life. You can't do without water, and we will further discuss on the causes of that. But this is my initial introductory sort of statement with regard to the fears that I nurse about this whole situation.
Thank you, Shahab Usto, for a very, very comprehensive yet put in very nice summarized form. We'll certainly proceed and learn from you the intricacies of all the issues that you pointed out, the regional dynamics, the internal dynamics, and the mismanagement, our management of it. Now we'll go to Dr. Imran. Could you please kindly, sir, give your opening statement on the aspect as you see water security as a challenge to Pakistan? Over to Dr. Imran, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Rasool, Baluch, and I am very happy and thrilled to be part of this webinar because being a teacher, I'm a professor at NB University, and I have definitely limited audience every year, but new every year. But it is very good to be a webinar where no limits, everyone can join and enjoy this information. But my colleague, Mr. Shahab, just very comprehensively pointed out some of the very issues which, as a researcher, it is on my mind and many other people who are actually worried about future of water of this country. Uh, and I would say that these kind of efforts made by you people who may or may not be directly related to water, because definitely my whole life went through working with water and doing some research on water. But when I see other people, it makes me very happy and very energetic that our future is not dark. That is the whole point, being part of it. And I would love to be part of this thing in future as well. Now coming back to the technical part of it, which definitely Shahab Saab pointed out as well. And I don't have different comments than and the topics what he mentioned, but I am probably being a researcher. What I would like to comment is the issues what he mentioned regarding the availability of water and then the accord we have, both the international one within the industry treaty and the water apportionment accord. For me, both are obsolete right now, because the dynamics and the dimensions on the both sides of any borders, internally or and internationally, are changed. On top of that, there is some typical cloud of climate change is hovering around us. And all these areas, 3-4 areas where what I normally discuss, I'm a student of water for many years, so this is what I thought, that I really don't understand everything what I just said. What we need as a country, what we need as an institution, what we need as a researcher, we need a bit more of data needed, we need a bit more of research needed. For example, consumption of water in Sindh after apportionment accord. We really need to go through what has changed and what is needed in future. The second example, Shahab Saab gave about downstream coterie. I just finished a research project funded by World Bank on, and that is called IWRM, Integrated Water Resources Management. The main focus was on Kinjar, because Kinjar feeds Karachi in terms of drinking water with the help of Indus. So all these things are coming up. So that's what we think. This is good that all this, there is another thing, what he mentioned about Third Park, the southern part of Sindh, which is actually need some sort of help and research. And And that would change the dynamics, that would change the grievances, that would change the attitude of the people among this country. If we go start further from on the top of our country from north, definitely we have an issue with India. And in your comments, you said that Modi threatened that we can stop their water. Being a water student, I normally, wherever I go, I try to give my opinion and my version of it. First of all, they cannot do that because we have guarantors and it has been intact for many years. And assuming that if they do it, if and only if, the next night we are fighting with them. It's not going to be a peaceful area if they try to stop it. And remember this, I know a lot of people in India. I have worked internationally for 18 years. I have been in US and Canada for 18 years and worked with them. I have a lot of people who are water expert. Actually, they called after that thing to Modi, and then they said that don't say this, we cannot do that. But it doesn't mean that we should not be worried about our water. We should be worried about water which starts from China and gets to us. And how much it gets to us, honestly, the main point, I'm sorry, I'm taking more time in introductory remarks,
No,
but what we need is we need some real data in North and in South. The key of the solution, technically, is some more data. We collect those data and before Tarbela, when water enters Pakistan. And then in South, where grievances are building up day by day and year by year. And we see some evidences, we need to explore it. So this is overall, when I saw your comments this morning, your questions this morning, this is what it is. How much water we have, how we distribute it, are we doing it okay, are we doing not okay, something like that.
Yeah. Thank
But
you. Thank you for
research
your
and data acquisition is the key to get that. And that needs money, and that needs support, and that needs will.
wonderful. We will actually not only trying to give a general comment, but we're trying to see if we can, at the end of the seminar webinar, we are able to give some kind of solid recommendations in terms of the two areas that you said: collection of data and the research. What can be done? What government can do? What private sector can do? What institutions can do? Now, there are several aspects I said, but since I think the first unwrapping of this question of water security is the availability. So I know there is this political aspect of India always hovering over us, and giving us existential threats. But I agree with you that it will not be easy for India to unilaterally stop our water, but it can impact the availability. What we have, it can impact if we put our guards down, and if the international community doesn't come up to our rescue. So I think we will try to contain our discussion on the technical issues. So may I request you to exhaust the issue of availability. The rains and the glaciers in the Karakoram are the main sources of our fresh water for Pakistan. And the climate change is drastically altering that natural cycle. The glaciers are melting faster, the rains are erratic. Sometimes we have too many rains. We do not have that. For the first time that we've had the monsoon cycle exactly in June, July, we used to have it in the past. So how climate change is impacting the availability of water from these two main sources, that is rainwater, and are we managing rainwaters properly? And are we looking after our glaciers, let that water go waste? So may I request, maybe you can continue, Dr. Saab, and then we can come back to Dr. Shahab Saab, Shahab Usto Saab on this very question. Please, Dr. Saab, you can continue with the impact of climate change on the availability of water, please.
Okay, thank you again giving me this opportunity. Again, what I'm about to say, some of you may not like it. Nowadays, what I see on TV and radio and everywhere, everyone is expert of climate change,
Okay.
right? And
So there are
I'm
also
working on this
non-believers
for,
who don't believe in climate change. There are
yes,
some people in the
yes.
world.
And what is, when I ask someone, there are a lot of people call me for this too. I am working on climate change for the last 20 years around the world and in Pakistan. I don't understand it till date. I have a few colors of it that I can share, that this is what I observe, but I'm not sure it is climate change or not, but this is happening. First thing, what we have done as a nation and as people, that we have said that, okay, climate change is a bad thing, and it has happened, and temperature is going up, and every day there is flood, and this and that, and glaciers are melting like rocket speed and all that. Everything, all what I just mentioned, actually happening, but not with the scale, the way we suggest, the way we comment on it. This, for God's sake, people have to hold their horses. Okay, I give you a simple example. And glacier melt and erratic rain contribute Indus, right? If we look at the data, every year we should have increase in annual flow of Indus. But what we see, there is not a drastic inflow increase in Indus.
Why?
And that's what I'm coming to. If glaciers are melting with
Where is the water
very,
gone? Where is the
where is
water?
the water going? Where is the water going? Right? So it means either they are not melting with the speed we are suggesting. We have blooperized this word climate change, which as a student of water, I disagree. I need to see the physical data of it. A trend line which is going up year by year of Indus River flow. And definitely I would believe if there is, and the rain amount is not changing much, plus minus some a few millimeters every year, right? So it is definitely then glacier melt. If it is glacier melt and every year the temperature is going up, or every 5 years we consider, so there should be an upward direction, and we should have lots of water in Indus. Where is that water? We are deprived of water downstream Kotri, even before Kotri sometimes. So the equation is not balanced. The water balance is not there. So it means either water balance is not changed much, or we have some wrong numbers. And it doesn't hurt. World has gone to a very different level in terms of collecting data in every field, in every walk of life. Why not we consider some money, we allocate some money to collect our own data at the north and at the south. Recently, I have applied for a research proposal under GCF program of HEC to do our own database for the water, for what flows in our rivers and in our watersheds. I will come back on watershed thing later on,
Okay, we will
but
come back.
I'm just giving you the idea that all this climate change thing is there for sure. I do understand there is a bit of change in temperature, but the way we say that, oh, the glacier are melting, so just one last line regarding climate change, because we are dependent on Indus. From China, from Himalayas, there are 3 rivers which are main rivers. There are 10 rivers which Himalayas nurtures, but I'm talking about 3 because 3 are the big ones: Indus, Brahmaputra, and Ganges. Indus get the lion's share of it, 40%. So if glacier in Himalaya melting, Indus should be the first one to get the highest flow, which is
Correct.
not there. So it is on and off, year to year, just typical variability. So I'm not sure how much it is melting. And I have read a lot of papers before giving this statement on air, that the 12% rate of melting, and only 1 point something percent that advancing of it. But anyway, so that is the research. But 2005, Hewlett and all these big researchers in that
Okay.
area, which I know. So
So we
my
come back
point
to
is there is climate change, but we need to have our own data set on these spots to make
correct.
sure that yes, we are getting more water or less water. And,
Okay.
and the first measuring point is Tarbela. I need some points before Tarbela.
Great. I will come back to you on this. I think
Okay.
on data collection and
Yes.
verification, and I think you seems to be from the school of thought which is skeptical of the climate change impact in its gravity. Shahab Usto Sahab, can I have your thoughts on the availability of water, how the climate change is impacting? Either you can, if you we can have your, are we really doing enough as a government? We do have on the papers a Ministry of Climate Change, but do you think they are doing sufficient? Like they are they up to the task that climate change responsibility puts on their shoulder? Shahab Usto Sahab, your take, sir.
Well, I must admit that Imran Saab is the right person. He is the expert in this field. So I do not have any claim or any uh, sort of misunderstanding about myself being in his footstep, in his shoes. He is the right person, and I do not disagree with him. But I would only point out a certain variables that might have some impact uh, on this discussion regarding the availability of water. You see, the problem is I may uh, uh, share with you my own experience that I had when I was working during the floods that came in 2010 and 2011-12. So I was lucky to be actually in the field for good 2 months, and I had been traveling all over the province. Uh, so I had seen the things happening from, as they say, very close quarters. So the problem is that uh, from Guddu downstream, you will see that there has been continuous and steady, but uninterrupted, rather increasingly uh, steadier deterioration in the irrigation system. Our irrigation system has been literally unraveling, you see. And although lots of funding is there, and every year you spend hundreds of billions of rupees, and more so when we have floods. But you'll be surprised if you just go and see, if you take a boat or if you just uh, come along the river bed and see how the irrigation system is completely coming under sort of neglect, and especially even the barrages, the headworks, the where you actually control the whole water system. They don't have the technical mechanisms. They don't even have the telemetering and things like that. So they don't know how much water came. They have old system of gauge system, when they just those have those bars, where they measure these 5 foot feet and 10 feet and 11 feet. I mean, they see like that, but they don't have any dredging facilities. They don't line the embankments. So our irrigation system, which I believe in even only in the province of Sindh, is around 5,000 kilometers, square kilometers, the Indus system, along with its rivers and this whole network. But you see, it's in a horrible shape. I mean, so there is, according again, Imran Saab is right that we don't have any definitive information on that, but the very cautious estimate is that there is about two-thirds of water being lost. So, number one, we don't know how much water was released. Number two, we don't know exactly how much water was wasted. We don't know how, we have a certain, uh, plausibly measurable estimate of water being, used by the agricultural sector and by the industry or by the people for their personal consumption. So there's just rough idea that 96% is used by the agriculture, and about 2% by the people for domestic consumption and only 2% for the industry. But I beg to differ, because the ultimate problem that we have to deal with is the water management. Since we can't increase the amount of water, we are on the receiving end. We are receiving water. We are not producing water. Either we have rainfalls or we have surface water coming from, as Imran Saab said, all the way from Himalayas. So what we need is, number one, water management. And water management requires, I think to the best of our abilities, if not accurate, near correct data, statistics, so that we can make some sensible uh, resource allocations, and we can then use that in a very efficient manner. So you see, when you don't know how much water is coming, how much water is being wasted, and you don't have any managerial system in place, and there is all the time use of power or some arbitrary sort of these tactics, whether by the provinces or by the big landlords. So they steal water, they just force the people out of the areas, and especially the tail enders, they suffer invariably. So I think, just like other systems of governance, water governance also requires to be absolutely overhauled, and with the help of people like Imran Saab, those whose field is this. And I'm really sorry, I must say, I feel myself so, in a sorry state that I'm talking about water. I should not be talking about water. I don't know anything about water. I should be talking about the political or maybe legal or constitutional aspects of this issue. Imran Saab, like people should be sitting on the TV, panels. They should be educating us. They should have the data, and of course they can't get the data on their own. They need to have the state support. They need to have the proper systems, not only state support, but proper, because water is permanent thing. Water is not something that you need now and you can then wait for next year and then again go back. Water is something that you have to always cater to, in terms of distribution, in terms of allocation, in terms of management, and in terms of, above all, projections for the future. Because our economy is growing, which needs water. Our agriculture is growing, which needs water, and more, and our population exploding.
Exactly.
So, so now, so we are totally, unmindful of that. We have put this issue to oblivion. We are not bothered, as if this matter is, nature will take care of it. This is what our, national attitude about water is this: let the nature take care of it. Let the people take care of themselves. Let the big mafias, continue with their, water stealing and, sort of creating this water black market economy, which, by the way, thrives in Karachi and everywhere else. So I think it's an issue which requires national deliberation. It's an issue which requires political,
Will.
consensus and constitutional interventions even. So this
Yes.
is my humble view.
Thank you. I think I think we kind of have touched upon the availability of water. Perhaps it appears to me from the view of you, both of you, that contrary to the view that is being held, that Pakistan is going to be soon among the countries which are water stressed, so to say. But more than that, serious is that we even don't know how much is the availability of water, and we do not have the mechanism in place which can really give us a right projection and which can become a basis for proper planning. So I think management is one thing in which I think we need to look at three major sectors. That is agriculture. That includes the urban, people living in the villages and the animals, the urban centers and industry. So is it that we will take each sector? So I'll go to Dr. Imran Sahab. Sir, ये बताइए कि tell us about that, how unplanned urbanization is really accentuating our water scarcity problem and making us vulnerable in terms of water security. the unplanned urbanization and mismanagement of water, or mismanagement of water in the urban centers. Imran Sahab, with specific reference to Karachi, agar aap thoda sa, if you enlighten us and the audience, that would be great. Imran Sahab.
Thank you, Baluch. These are very all important issues. Honestly, what you are just bringing it up in every session here. What is scarce? First of all, one more thing. We think that we are water scarce country. This is based on an international methodology that we calculate per capita. We just water total water in the country divided by the population is called this water happy and water deficient and water scarce country, 3 categories. So our per capita has gone down below 1,000 cubic meter per person. That's why we call it water scarce country. But there are many countries which are less than, this water amount is less than us and doing very fine. So it is definitely a standard, international standard, but honestly, I cannot call a country water scarce if the country gets flood almost every year in most part of the country. We cannot manage water as Shahab said. We need management, no matter it is artificial management in terms of irrigation or natural management, which is called watershed management. We don't have any, and I'm saying it, you can, this is recording for sure, you can listen it later on and reference it. We don't have watershed management system. The nations who don't have watershed management system never survive with water, because watershed management tells you how much God has given you water. We don't have any system like this in Pakistan. And
Yes.
I'm, as most of you know already, we need to do this. This last summer, how much rain we got in Karachi, you can see. No one knows how much water it was, including me. I don't know. People ask me, I said, I don't know, because I don't have any system there. We don't even have a measuring gauge in Leari and Mali River. It is only 80,000 rupees. We can't afford, Karachi cannot afford 80,000 rupees gauge.
Correct.
Can you see, this is the importance of water we have in our lives. So, so we have management issue. We have enough water. I am saying and I repeat, we have enough water. If we don't have enough water, how are we wasting it? As Shahab said, irrigation management, as an average, we are wasting 50% of water to provide it anywhere in Pakistan. From point A to point B, 50% is our irrigation efficiency is 50%. Somewhere it is more than 50%. So we are wasting 50% water, which is going to ground, and then we pump it up later on if we can. Otherwise, it stays there. And we have high water table, and in Sindh, you have seen salinity issue and drainage issue is problem, right? So it is the mismanagement which actually make non-fertile, produce a non-fertile land in Sindh and southern Punjab. We did it by ourselves. Nobody has done it to us. Okay. Now your question was regarding urban. In urbanization, definitely, water scarcity is not happened because of urbanization. We did urbanization without management again.
Correct.
We made 60-story building and with 4-inch pipe of drain and 4-inch pipe of water supply. How can we manage it? And everyone wants to make more money and runs towards urbanized area to have a better life and this and that. This is what the human psyche is around the world. It is happening. So it is happening in Pakistan too. But are we prepared for it? No, we are not. Lahore has the same issue. Even Islamabad has the issues of water now, right? Which has more than 1,400 millimeter a year. Karachi gets only 8 inch of rain, which is only 200 millimeter. Karachi is totally dependent on Indus. So if there is not enough water available in Indus, then definitely the city would be suffering. And if there is water available and we are throwing it into sea or we are not able to manage it, then again it's a problem. If you don't have any reservoir in monsoon, we can store a bit of water, then definitely population is not going to decrease. We need to increase our resources. So, and this recent flooding, you have another question, since I would like to answer right away on that too. Recent flooding is again because of overpopulation and bad designing as well. And it is not bad designing of waters, it is bad designing of solid waste management
management
in the
system.
city, which actually the best design ever of drainage system. I design drainage system all the time. I cannot do it because if the solid waste gets into it, you put 48-inch pipeline or 72-inch, it is going to fill one day. So
Correct.
we have some hidden things which people don't think, people don't talk about it. If we want to improve urbanized area, we need to improve the solid waste management system first to drain the extra water. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's a great answer to the urbanization. I think another important aspect that I really want to touch, there are two more aspects which I would like to you, both of you gentlemen, to inform us about. One is the mismanagement of the subsoil water, because what has happened that since our canal system has failed, are so now old, about 200 years old, and now it is in kind of disused. So there is just no premium at all. Anybody can like dig a tube well in this. I've seen in Islamabad people digging up on every house 200 feet down, 300 feet down, subsoil water without any permission. Because I know of it that when I went to New Mexico in US, I was told that anybody who wants to have a subsoil, he has to pay 150,000 to 200,000, and he has to wait for at least year and a half to get the license so that they do the survey. While here, just simply there's no regulation and they're depleting this very important resource, that is the subsoil water. So could you please tell us how important source of water it is for agriculture as well as for the drinking, and how best to manage it, and what is that could be done to really make it sustainable? Doctor, you can continue, and then I'll come back to Shahab Saab on this question. Please go ahead.
First of all, as you mentioned, and not many people in this country know that anything below 6 feet is not ours, even in our own property. This is
Right.
law.
Okay. Correct.
The good example I give you, Sarina Hotel, Quetta. When it was, they started constructing this, when they dug it out, there was a lot of gold in there, 20 feet below, something, 10, 20 feet below. So everybody thought that Sarina, who is actually owned by Aga Khan Foundation or something, so they would take it. Who took it? Government. Because it is government's property. You have only 6 feet of it where you can put foundation. Now the second thing is, since the same thing applies to water, me and you, I have well at my home too, and I'm not paying a single penny. So what does it mean? So if it means that there is no law.
There's no law.
There is no law yet, but it is in process, and I am part of it too.
Okay.
So it is in process, and it would come up. And the only thing what I have seen that groundwater, which Justice Saqib Nisar did a couple of years back, that he actually put 1 rupee per liter for every commercial water producing water bottle, these companies. That's the only thing I have seen so far. But I haven't seen like me and you and everyone, because we justify ourselves that if the government is not giving us water, we need to do it from somewhere, because we cannot survive without it. But definitely it needs all that kind of protection from the government, laws and everything, that we can control it accordingly. And secondly, you ask that, okay, is this water good for agriculture? It depends. If it is very saline, if it is more than 3,000 TDS or 5,000 TDS, it is not good. But definitely if it is less than that, and most of the Sindh water is less than that. And definitely that is good enough. Plus this irrigation that seeps in, and this actually makes the concentration low
I think like
anyways.
other water, probably we don't have the data as to how much our
Exactly,
aquifer is
exactly,
there, how much
exactly.
that is there, and how much recharging we need every year. That the kind of how much water we draw so that we recharge it. There is no recharging mechanism whatsoever in our country.
Every
Yeah,
country is recharging rainwater. They are harvesting rainwater and they are
yeah.
putting it back into wells, dug wells.
Exactly. That is not happening in our
In
country. That's
India,
not happening. Yeah,
in all the countries, Africa, here and there, the only country who is not doing is Pakistan.
that's right. That's right.
You cannot make any mechanism to do that. They have done it over the apartment buildings rooftop. They have put all the water draining into the well.
Correct.
And there are millions of examples. That's why I said world is on a different place now regarding water. We should learn from them. We should apply all those things. We should collect our own data and do it possibly. And one more thing I wanted to say it in the end, I believe what Pakistan is not water scarce country at all, not even Balochistan. I'm from Balochistan. And I'm saying it in very, very good. Other than Quetta, because of this population, Palestine has lots of groundwater, lots of rain now. You see that. We are not able to manage it again here in Balochistan too. And Balochistan needs a lot of water because we have lots of area and it's very fertile and we can agriculture it, and it would be a different place after 20 years if we plan accordingly.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. I think it's all about the political will and motivating the citizenry to really work together, and also to, I think, increase the consciousness of the value of water. I believe we don't have the value of water as
Yes,
people, as citizens. That's a problem. We wash our cars like this water is sort of with a big pipe. I mean, it's criminal the way we see these service stations. I think the first step should be to stop them. There should be a vacuum, or there should be vapors, or whatever. How much water in Karachi itself, in my view, would be in millions of gallons water being wasted in just washing these cars and others with the availability again. Do you think sea could be another source? Imran sahab, आपके पास मैं आऊंगा on this very question. How sea can help us in terms of Karachi's water availability? Sir, आप subsoil पे, do you want to say something, Shahab Usto sahab? What have we done with this great natural source that we have with the subsoil water, especially for drinking in the urban areas and for agriculture in our rural areas? Shahab sahab.
Uh, you see, for the last 3, 4 years, I've been working with the Water Commission, and I had the opportunity to actually see and examine the actual sources of contamination and how they are affecting the surface water and the subsoil water. You'll be surprised that the entire Indus network that is running through the province of Sindh has become a big, huge network of sewage, because there is no city in the province, including Karachi, which has an efficient sewage system, sanitation system, by which you can drain out the sewage effluent after treating it. So the entire effluent is being poured into the river system. Canals and the main body of Indus is the recipient of raw sewage from industry, from municipal uh, affluent and domestic, and even hospitals. So you can imagine our Indus system, even in Punjab, it is being used as a conduit of sewage. And even now, the problem is that the same water is used for the irrigation, which has different kinds of chemicals and different kinds of antiseptics, which then seep into the subsoil water. And
Okay.
I've seen that in the small cities, not small, medium-sized cities like Shikarpur, Dadu, Jacobabad, Khairpur, they don't have any uh, solid waste or liquid waste systems working. So what they do, they collect all the sewage, liquid as well as solid, and throw it in the water bodies.
Oh,
So during the commission, we made about 156 visits all over the province. So then we actually carried out a very scientific study to find out where there's a confluence of fresh water with the effluent. So the irrigation department actually pointed out with the Google map, there are about 850 points all over the province where the effluent was thrown into directly into the river system without any treatment. Because including Karachi, there is not a single treatment plant working anywhere in the province. And you'll be surprised that there are about 2,300 rural water and sewage schemes, 2,300. And we inspected about 90% of them. Not a single water and sewage, rural water and sewage, or water supply and sewage scheme was functional. So you can imagine the people were drinking water from the water bodies, which were also used as the gutters, as the
no.
sewage ponds.
Bonds, right.
So that is another reason that you will see an epidemic of waterborne diseases there, because
Exactly.
people are drinking nothing but raw sewage. I
Sewage,
call
exactly.
I use the word killer water.
Ghulam.
So you see, the problem is when you talk about the contamination of subsoil water, the prime reason is that since there is no efficient, let alone efficient, there is no even system of the management of effluent, and the rivers are both used as the conduit of effluent as well as the water, drinking water, or the consumption, human consumption water. So that has in turn infected, contaminated the subsoil water, because that water seeps down into subsoil water. So now you see, there was a time when cities like Shikarpur had wonderful water. Therefore, the 7-Up factory was installed there because of the water quality. Now that water has become totally unconsumable because the TDS and all kinds of pathogens have contaminated water, and people are using that water because they don't have the water supply, public water supply facilities. So I'll tell you, all over the province, according to the PCRWR's data, and done in a very scientific, flawless manner, 85% of the water in the entire province is not fit for human consumption. 85%. And you'll be surprised that in Karachi, 91.7% of water samples were contaminated. I'm talking about Karachi. And understandably so, because in Karachi, there are about 7 or 8 water filter plants. Not a single water filter plant is functional. We made 3 or 4 functionalized through commission, but I don't know about them now. And in fact, Karachi receives 550 million gallons per day through Kinjar, Dhabeji, Dhabeji pumping station, and 100 from Hub River. So in all, we receive in Karachi about 650 million gallons per day. And you'll be surprised that the 550 million gallon which we receive from the main supply, that is Dhabeji from Kinjar, is completely contaminated, because about 350 or about even more 400 million gallon is directly thrown into the supply lines without circulating it through the filter plants. And those two filter plants, including COD, we somehow managed to get the new filters, replaced and all that. But the problem was that even if you filtered about 150 million gallons per day, now that filtered water was then mixed with the unfiltered water. That was directly pumped into the system. So practically in Karachi, you are drinking water which is not fit for human consumption. Now coming to the other more frightening picture, that is about Imran Sahab just spoke about the solid waste management and the liquid waste management. In Karachi, there were 3 treatment plants, sewage treatment plants, out of which one sewage treatment plant that was quite big at Mahmudabad, which covered about an area of about 130 square uh, uh, acres. That area was deliberately allowed to be trespassed and occupied by the people who were displaced from Lines area. So now that treatment plant is never going to be functional. The other 2 remained dysfunctional for the last 30 years. Out of those 2, we got through the commission 1 treatment plant of Maripur functionalized, which produced about 80 million gallon to 100 million gallon of, which treat effluent. And the other one was going to be operationalized, but since commission was expired by that time, so I don't know what happened to that. But so at this point of time, the sea receives every day 470 million gallons of untreated sewage every day.
Yes, I think
Every day. So you can imagine that this, now we have turned the sea into a big pool of sewage. Our marine life is threatening, decimating every day. Now coming to the solid waste management, Karachi produces about 4,000 tons of solid waste every day. Sorry, 14,000 tons of solid waste every day. You'll be surprised, Ambassador Saab, Karachi being a city of more than 20 million people, doesn't have even a landfill site. It doesn't have any landfill site where you can scientifically dispose of the solid waste. In fact, you use that for other energy producing and other byproducts. So the entire garbage, which is about 14,000 ton, is thrown on open plots, which is then burnt away. And every day we create a disaster, ecological disaster. And it has been happening ever since the Karachi was turned into was gradually, promoted to this level. Nobody bothered. So we, through commission, got this plan put into planning stage, at least by the time we had to go. So in Karachi, don't have any landfill site. In Karachi, there is no water treatment plant. There is no sewage treatment plant. So you can imagine, this shows the collective, criminal negligence. So they don't bother.
Ji. Acha, give me a little bit of on the role of EPA. Whether is our industry equally the criminal under the umbrella of EPA, which is not probably functioning and is not effective enough? Because if they had their own industrial waste disposal plants at the site of their industries, I think a big quantity of solid waste can be saved, and especially the liquid waste, which they throw it into the nalas and goes to the sea, that could be saved. So how that is impacting the quality of water in Karachi and other cities?
The ultimate culprit is the SEPA, Sindh Environmental Protection Agency. Yes, so when we took up this this task given by the commission, the first visit that the Judge Saab, Justice Kalodo, made was of the SEPA's head offices. And you'll be surprised that SEPA's own laboratory that in-house laboratory was dysfunctional and had been dysfunctional for many years. So you can imagine that its own house was not even in order. So when we checked up with the record, they are maintaining they were maintaining zero record.
Okay, so
And,
I'll get
and they were only, yes, and just a few words
yeah,
more.
go ahead.
And you see, the problem is that when we uh, got the reports to see whether the industries were complying with the environmental laws, especially the pre-treatment plants, which they are supposed to install before releasing the toxic waste.
Waste into
Not a
that.
single industry in Karachi, about 2,300, big, huge. Otherwise, there are thousands of them. So when Justice Hani issued them notices, there was a huge uproar because they were not willing to put in to comply with the environmental law. In fact, they threatened. Finally, we got them undertaking, including the even more poisonous waste released by the sugar mills. All of them have given us in writing their undertaking that they are going to install the pre-treatment plants.
But
But the
who?
problem was that now, since the implementation commission was not allowed by his Honor, Lordship Justice Gulzar, if the implementation commission had continued the work, by now we would have seen things totally, coming up with, I think, a very promising picture.
Thank you.
Industry for the first time was ready to comply with the environmental law.
Thank you.
Powerful, hugely powerful group.
Yeah, I'll come back to you on the pollution of sea and especially deterioration of Indus Delta. But before I go on to this, I'll request Dr. Imran, can he give his expert opinion on the quality of water and the issues that you have highlighted? And is there any way out we can really at least limit the damage in terms of the quality of water, which is pretty scary for all of us? Dr. Imran sir.
Thank you, Baluch. Definitely, water quality is the issue which hits not only human health, animal, the things we grow, and the water we store. It's not only the drinking part at all. And now, why it is indirectly related, as Shahab Saab mentioned, that all this sewage is going into rivers because there is no other way. We don't have wastewater treatment plants in the cities where all the wastewater would go in like any other civilized city and then treated and then thrown into the rivers. But that big treatment plant is like non-existence of those, and wherever they are existed, just like Karachi, are not operational. So there is no other choice than throwing it into rivers without treatment. But that is only related to the domestic part, what I would say. The industrial part, as Shahab Saab mentioned, that they were finally at some point they were ready to cooperate, and because it's their job to do it according to the law, any case, that the law what we have in Pakistan is applicable to them, that you should treat it wastewater into raw water, change it into raw water, and then throw it in Leari or Malay River, doesn't matter. But it is not happening till date, and I'm not sure when it's going to happen. What is the effect of it? Let's talk about that. The things we grow with that water has heavy metals, all the pollution. The cattle who are grazed in that area where all this contaminated soil and water is, the milk, the meat, everything what we eat is contaminated. The infant drink that milk as well. So just imagine that the spread of epidemic is, we are vulnerable from day one to the worst situation just because of bad quality of water and non-existence of wastewater treatment plants. So the situation is very, very dire
Very
and
great.
alarming. So again, coming back to this, how we are going to resolve it? We try to resolve it. There was a commission. Shahab Saab was member of it. He is witness of everything. They tried their level best to put it, to harness all this nonsense. But eventually it is again stopped. So we are back to square one. What is the point of doing all the efforts made by this commission? So we need to work on it. We need to propagate this. We need to talk to the people that we have solution to control all this, and it is their responsibility. Look, all this industry it is not, it is just 1% or 2% of the whole system to spend on the wastewater treatment. But what would be the benefit of it? All of us know. So if law becomes a bit more strict on it, and people like Muslim Hani Saab, some other people come up with it, because we are only research, we can tell how this is this much bad, but the other things are not in our hands, not Shahab Saab's hands, but definitely all of us, if we are on one platform, I can tell them what is the problem and what is the solution, and someone comes in and implement it.
Yeah, there is a gap of communication between the experts, the government, and the end users. Probably seems to me that a
I think
dialogue that started off, this dialogue needs to go forward. And we really need to talk to the stakeholders, need to talk to the government, need to talk to the
exactly.
SIPA and farmers and citizens, I suppose. Is
But
that
but
possible?
but no. What I think, all this what we are talking is no news anymore. Everyone knows about it. After Muslim Hani Commission, all of us, the decision makers and the victims, all of us know about it. But it is not getting there where we want it to be. This
So
is the
there is
problem. So still we need to implement it. Honestly, it is a very, very positive effort and very positive impact on on common people. I'm not talking about the industrialists. Yes, they are not happy with it. They are doing it by hook or by crook or by will. I don't know. But if it is about to happen, it should happen.
Oh,
This is
Khalid
what I'm
Saab
saying.
has joined us finally. Acha, okay. Okay, now we have like last 15 minutes. Mr. Khalid was to join us. He's the Farmer Secretary of Irrigation and has an expertise on several water issues. So we are right exactly at the subject that you really had wanted to speak on, and our expert is the deterioration of Indus Delta. If you can enlighten us in 5 minutes, what do you think is happening with the Indus Delta in terms of management, mismanagement, lack of water, and lack of consciousness? And as a water body, which is one of the seventh largest wetland, which has been declared as is protected under the Ramsar Convention of the UN. Please go ahead, Khalid Sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Baluch. Assalamu alaikum to all my colleagues. I have been listening to you, but I couldn't join with you, but I was listening since you see last 40 minutes. So I'm supporting Mr. Osto and our Dr. Imran. So it is a water management and it is a water quality, very correct ground realities, what they have been stating, that way explaining. Now, my as an irrigation engineer, you have been asking, asked about delta. So unfortunately, we have no any reliable, device or mechanism to know the actual water availability in the Indus Basin. There is a water, what Mr. Imran had been saying, I am supporting, there is a water. But unfortunately, for the bad intention or well intention, whatever in the national interest, it should be identified by some proper mechanism like telemetry system. Now, Sindh province has been demanding since 2000 to install telemetry system on all barrages, on all off-taking canals. So in 2002, system was installed, but unfortunately, I should not say like that, but it was based on bad intention. That is why it couldn't work for a single day, and having an expenditure of more than 1 billion rupees, it was scrapped and sold out as a scrap in 2016. Now, unfortunately, Indus Delta, you see Indus Delta, what is the core conflict between upper riparian and lower riparian? Yes, there is a less discharge for drinking purpose, because it has become now priority one, then agriculture. But Indus deterioration of Indus Delta has been not taken in a serious factor, which is the main conflict of lower riparian, because we are losing our 90% Indus Delta virgin land since construction of these controlled irrigation system. So we have been saying, we have been emphasizing that upper riparian after Indus Treaty have been constructing very illegal infrastructure, massive illegal infrastructure without the consent of lower riparian being as a universal water law. That is why we have been suffering for now. We have been suffering for drinking purpose, we have been suffering for agricultural purpose, but mainly for recharge the aquifer, because we have only 10%, 5 to 10%. What I am saying, there's no research at all. Mr. Osto was saying very correct. There's no ground studies anywhere. Earlier this state, WAPDA had been studying for groundwater in all provinces. WAPDA had been owing these are responsibilities, but now they've left at the mercy of these, these provincial governments. That's why our provincial governments are not serious to, take the water ground. How much water ground is there? In Punjab, it is 80 to 90% there. Whereas in water account, it is not calculated. This is our reservation. Indus Delta, under para 27, under para 7 of water accord, in 1991 accord, it was demanded, it is in written in water accord that you have to carry out a study for release of minimum escapages downstream Kotri Paraj on regular basis in order to check the sea intrusion. Unfortunately, yes, on the demand of Sindh province, the then president, Mr. Musharraf, yes, had allowed to carry out studies. 3 detailed studies with the national and international consultants was carried out. Those studies were vetted through an international panel of experts that you have to release. There is a water. There is a water for next 50 years. If your intention is well, you can release downstream Kotli barrage for 8.65 million acre feet annually. But unfortunately, that report was dumped in the dustbin, and still take there is no water account of downstream Kotli barrage release. So I am summarizing your question that my upper riparian having no any sympathy or any seriousness about the issue of Indus Delta, deterioration of Indus Delta. So we are demanding since 1858, we are demanding for having a due share of water for Indus Delta. That's the one question. Now, availability of water, what I have said to you, it can only be checked with the telemetry system. Now, it is a new scandal. The member Sindh was removed for this reason, that he is not allowing to install telemetry system. They are wrong. What they are doing in upper region, they are installing only on barrages. Whereas in Sindh, they are installing on barrages as well as on canals. So it is a difference of the installation of telemetry system. This is very wrong. So our demand is, yes, you should install the telemetry system without any delay. It is our demand. It is our demand. We are not against, we have been demanding since 2000. So it should be installed with a uniform policy. What the Punjab is installing, like that in Sindh, you should install. So there's a lack of, intention. So we have to have a positive intention for uniform distribution of water. IRSA is now working against Sindh province. I am saying with all responsibility, because they are not doing their job. Their and performance, their work is partial. So I am saying that distribution of water in accords with the water accord should be done with the availability of water. And how can this be done with the water account? You have to have a water account, because they are giving the water losses all provinces for uniform. So this is a very serious conflict between upper riparian and lower riparian. Water rights of lower riparian are quite discouraged. They are not acknowledging the water rights of lower riparian. This is our say that we are lower riparian. Firstly, the water rights of the on the Indus River is of lower riparian. So it should be acknowledged in national interest. Number one. Number two, distribution of water should be in accordance with the AAC water accord. Number three, the water availability should be assessed, calculated with the telebill system. They are reporting fake and fabricated discharges at their mercy, all provinces. Sindh is Sindh, Punjab, every province. Nobody is taking the serious, interest to take the observation. This is my response.
Thank you, sir, very much. We have last 7 minutes. So may I request all the panelists, perhaps starting with Dr. Imran and Shahab Usto Sahab and yourself, to give two recommendations that you think can help us what is called to achieve or attain what is called water security, although water security has a bigger connotation in terms of regional situation, infrastructure, governance, availability, natural and man-made uh, issues. So can I request Dr. Imran Sahab to give his concluding remarks along with two recommendations, followed by Mr. Shahab and then followed by Mr. Khalid, and then I'll give my concluding remarks. Dr. Imran Sahab, please go ahead.
Thank you, Baluch sir. I think we have overall, my remarks are that we had really good discussion regarding this very, very important issue. Definitely we missed Khalid Saab in the beginning, but eventually he was able to join and we got some good information from him, which actually improved the standard of this webinar as well. Yes, as I mentioned on and off few things, I'm just trying to wrap it up accordingly that what we need numbers. We need numbers to decide for future, and that is the database management. And as Khalid Saab said that it should be telemetry. I am very much fond of telemetric system. And in fact, the recent proposal what is in process, HEC is telemetric data collection of 3 watershed of Sindh and 3 watershed of Baluchistan as a demonstration study for the rest of the country, that how we can improve the numbers what we have from rain and from the stream and from the river and this and that. Then the next step is we talk about it, okay, how much should go here and how much could go there, XYZ. So if we are able to manage it, 3 or 4 years of data in next 5 years plan, we will be better off in calculating the natural distribution of water at the watershed management level, and the telemetric system, which is actually, I hope it happens with some sort of consensus among upper and lower riparian. And then we have some artificial system what we have, that how much water goes where, and then we can come up with a very, very good solution out of it. And as far as water quality is concerned, we also need database for water quality, because it is affecting us right away. Having water and drinking water and using water, it is affecting us, our families, our cities and nation and everything. So both recommendations in terms of database and watershed management are from my side.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Stay on with us. We still have 5 minutes. Shahab Usto Sahab, can I have your concluding remarks with 2 recommendations at least that we could...
Thank you, sir. I would only request, first of all, that the Water Commission for implementation should be restored, because there are more than 140 Supreme Court orders on every issue that we are discussing, with exhaustive amount of recommendations, numbers of recommendations based on scientific studies, which no public or private institution has ever refuted or confronted or disputed. So the every study is authentic, and if the implementation of Water Commission's recommendations is somehow ensured, I think there is going to be a much alleviation of this problem. Number one. Number two, my recommendation is that there should be a national water policy institution, and that institution must work in the true sense of federalism. All the lower riparians and the upper riparians have their respective rights and claims scientifically measured out and implemented in a very democratic and transparent manner. Because you see, all over the world, water is not a municipal issue only. It is basically a national issue. Therefore, water even now is in the fourth schedule of the legislative list, federal legislative list. It is a federal subject. But since there are accords and treaties and concerns of lower riparians, there is no mechanism for the lower riparians to lodge any protest even. For instance, they have been running these perennially now, Chashma Jhelum canal, link canals, which are illegal. They cannot open these canals perennially. They are supposed to be open only when there are floods. But now they have been turned into proper irrigation canals, which is a violation of the accord and also violation of the lower riparian rights. So you see, when you do not run the country in the required constitutional or contractually obligationary methods, then you are creating problems between the state, between the federating units, and among the people. So it has to be taken from two angles, politically and constitutionally, and other in terms of the mechanism, which I see the National Water Policy Center or institution should be instituted, which should have equal membership from all the provinces with the proper managerial skills, technical skills, funding, so that it can maintain the proper data, annual data, all kinds of data. And then that report should be presented before the National Assembly or the Parliament every year, published and questioned, so that it should have some constitutional legal sanctity attached to it. Because water is the most important problem. It is not only for the human continuation or existence of human life, but also for your health, for your economy, for your industry, for your labor market, for your agriculture. So water, and for, of course, for your nature, ecology, the habitat of wildlife. So how can you neglect water? Water is the life. Without water, we can't do anything. So I think it
Correct.
should have the utmost priority at the national level, at the provincial level, at the local governments level, and even at the Talka and Union Council level. There should be complete symbiosis of all these different levels of units, governing at different levels. So water
Right.
has to be properly managed and treasured as a most precious asset. This is my humble
Absolutely.
submission.
Great, sir. Wonderful, wonderful ideas. Can we have two recommendations from Dr. Khalid Saab, and then I'll try to wrap up in a very brief comment.
Thank you very much, sir. My first recommendation would be the reliability of water. Yani we should have availability of water and distribution of water through proper, reliable, scientific mechanism, and distribution of water exactly in accordance with Water Accord 1991, not a para three-tier formula, because three-tier formula is a, you see, very illegal formula what we have been enforcing forcibly, might as a right basis rule with the IRSA. So this should be eliminated. And para 2, what the Attorney General has been telling to the CCI, that only para 2 is the way to distribute the water among the provinces. So this is number 1. Partly number B, 1A, 1B. It is a water account. You should have detailed water account, actual water account on the reliable water availability of water of all provinces. You should mention the downstream releases of Kotli barrage in your water account of water account. This is the main factor, which we have been not doing after this, you see, 30 years, 30 years, we have been able to incorporate under para 7 the downstream release of Kotli barrage. Number 2, it is a really a water management. I think it's a very, very criminal activities are being done in my provinces, in Punjab, everywhere. So we should not support this one. Everybody is doing on the rights basis. So we have to, you see, implement the water laws. And number 3, we should have a water vision of 25 years and a strategic plan on short term, medium term, and long term basis, and should be implemented with a strict law. So there should be a water emergency in Pakistan, because now water has become a very, very critical issue of our Pakistan. Nobody is realizing, nobody is taking serious, but one day will come that everybody will be weeping for one single drop of water. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. First of all, let me really thank you all so profoundly for really giving such important input in this webinar, which would have been a seminar if we were able to meet physically, but because of the COVID, as you know. But I think some very important recommendations have been given. I'll just summarize that we should have a system of calculation and data about the availability of water, and based on scientific data, then the distribution of water has to be done again on a data judiciously, constitutionally, and with a national spirit of making Pakistan a prosperous, healthy, and a strong country. Then Shahab Saab gave a very good recommendation that we should have a national institution, which name can be anything, where the whole water situation has to be done, where the availability, distribution, and of course the implementation of the water record and the redress of grievances of the federating units has to be addressed. And I think water has to be prioritized. And of course, very interesting proposal by Khalid Sahab was the water vision for Pakistan for coming 25 to 50 years. Again, a very good recommendation. We hope that Pakistan, if those who are the decision makers are listening us, hearing us, would hear this is the voice of the experts, this is the voice of the people of Pakistan. We hope and pray that Pakistan achieves the water security, which is important for us. Again, once again, thank you for all of you to have spared this time and made such a great contribution. Thank you very much. And thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you.